Welcome to Operation Hammer Strike's community briefing. My name is Gloria Huerta. I'm a public information officer for the Sheriff's Department, and I will be your host today. The goal of today's briefing is to answer some of the most common questions regarding Operation Hammer Strike, the success and challenges of the operation, and the new Commercial Cannabis Activity Ordinance. These questions come from a variety of sources and will be directed to our guests. Joining us today, we have Shannon Dicus, Sheriff of San Bernardino County, Don Rowe, 3rd District Board of Supervisors, Jason Anderson, District Attorney for San Bernardino County, and Ignacio Nunez, Code Enforcement Division Chief. Each of these departments plays an important role in the fight against illegal marijuana cultivation, and it is up to them to find a solution that is effective, promotes safety for our residents, and accountability for those responsible for the illegal marijuana grows. So if we are all settled in, we will go ahead and get started with our first question, which will go to the Sheriff. Operation Hammer Strike has been underway for about 3 months now. What is the current status of the operation?
So Gloria, we entered into Operation Hammer Strike with about 1,100 grows that were reported across the county by citizens. As soon as we announced the operation, that number grew to 1,285. As of now, we're down to 1,205. Obviously, that increase was due to a lot of the media that we received and the citizens helping us find these illegal grows and, of course, eradicate them. So I'm going to give you just some stats to date as to where we're at with this process. We've served 310 total search warrants. There have been 362 suspects arrested during the operation. 315,000 cannabis plants have been seized. 57,000 pounds of finished marijuana have also been seized. 102 firearms have been seized. $756,000 in cash has been seized. And 1,812 greenhouses have been eradicated. The total wholesale product value of the marijuana that we've taken off the streets as a result of Hammer Strike to this point is approximately $225 million.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our next question will go to Supervisor Don Rowe. You played an essential role in helping bring all this to life. Can you please give us information on the number of complaints your office received from constituents dealing with the negative effects of illegal cultivation near their homes and businesses, and give us your thoughts on the progress made so far?
We received hundreds of calls, emails, text messages from concerned citizens who live and work and recreate in the area out in the deserts. And it became a quality of life issue that truly impacted whether it was our equestrians still riding through the desert, or kids walking to school and getting to school buses, or just people outside trying to recreate in their own backyards. And this Operation Hammer Strike has improved the quality of life for our rural desert residents in a way that we have only positively imagined it could do, and it's thanks to our code enforcement, the Marijuana Enforcement Task Force, and all those involved at the county level. So thank you.
Our next question will be for District Attorney Jason Anderson. Your office has been highly involved in this operation from the onset. Can you share with us how you have had to structure your office for this operation?
Yes, what we did is when we met with the sheriff back in March of this year, we dedicated one prosecutor out of our specialized prosecution unit, District Attorney David Tolkien, and also a supervisor, Carrie Epstein, to do nothing but work on our approach towards marijuana. We also put one of our investigators from our Bureau of Investigation onto the task force also, so that we would have somebody in law enforcement with their eyes on the ground when we went out to the scenes. The main reason that we did this is that we knew that with the number of grows that would be hit, we would need one person working on this full time. Because that took away a resource within our existing specialized prosecution unit, we have been able to actually hire a couple contract attorneys through the approval of the Board of Supervisors to backfill that spot, so Mr. Tolkien can devote all of his time just on the Hammer Strike operation. But we also have environmental crimes and consumer protection crimes that we prosecute normally within the community that we'll have help with, so we don't leave something that we otherwise would work on and neglect that in favor of the marijuana operation. So we've gotten that extra help, and that's the way we've approached this. The main reason is that the reason we have somebody from specialized prosecution is that our approach in this manner with the marijuana problems in the desert with Hammer Strike is that we have to approach it from an environmental standpoint and we have to be more creative and more strategic. And so our prosecutor already has those specialized skills devoted to this one area.
Our next question will be for Code Enforcement Division Chief Ignacio Nunez. Please tell us the role your office has played in the operation and how it is working out to date.
Thank you. Code enforcement is very active on the cannabis issue, and we're proud of our work thus far in Operation Hammer Strike and our partnership with the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney's Office. We have a dedicated cannabis team, and there is one member of our team, a code enforcement officer, that's assigned to each sheriff's Met team. They accompany the sheriff on warrants, cannabis warrants, and our role there includes accompanying them to inspect, identify, and document violations of the San Bernardino County Code. These violations include land use violations related to commercial cannabis activity and cannabis cultivation, substandard health and safety issues, and public nuisance violations. Upon confirming that the violations exist, we'll prepare a notice of violation or issue an administrative citation to the property owner or responsible party. We follow up with a reinspection to make sure the violations are corrected, and if they are not, we continue with our enforcement process, which includes citations with substantial penalties. We're seeing many property owners who are responding to the operation by self-abating as they respond to our notices and become aware of the work the sheriff and our team is doing out in the field. We do have a large number of cases, and we'll continue working hard to make sure that we resolve those issues. But with the sheriff's work on the criminal side and our department's work on the administrative enforcement side, we think we're going to continue to see progress.
Our next question is back to the sheriff. Funding for this operation was approved by the Board of Supervisors. What does that mean and why is it so important?
Corey, that's a great question. And what I'd like the public to know and what I hope they're seeing is their government in action. When the citizens have problems, it's incumbent upon all of us to collaborate, cooperate, and make sure we solve these problems. As the board went through the process of determining an ordinance to give us some teeth, not just on the enforcement side of criminal law, but also on the civil side, like Ignacio just mentioned, the board didn't just hit the gavel and say, okay, I fixed this problem. At the end of the day, they leave themselves open to hear back from all of us. So as Ignacio, Jason, and I go through the process, we may need to change the ordinance to make it more strict. Right now, we're seeing at about a 10% of repeat offenders since we started Hammer Strike. So if we continue to see this, that may mean that our efforts need to be a bit stronger. The board's left us open to do that, not just from a funding perspective, but also from adopting an ordinance perspective. And I would hope that the public sees that when we have problems like this, we truly work together to solve their problems.
Perfect, great, thank you so much. Next question, Supervisor Don Rowe. Do you feel the new county ordinance is making a difference? If not, is there a possibility of revising the ordinance to change fines, such as a per plant fine?
I do feel that our new ordinance is working quite well, and as the sheriff mentioned, if it isn't working or if we need to tweak it, we can certainly adjust it from the board level. We have increased fines tenfold to property owners, and we are also looking and working with the district attorney's office to see what other ways we can prosecute, whether it is through a per plant basis, and what stands up in the courts. So we're flexible, and with the team and the collaboration, we feel confident that we can eradicate the problem.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question, District Attorney Jason Anderson. Are you seeing repeat offenders? If so, are there stiffer consequences for those who just pay the fine and continue doing what they're doing?
We've seen some repeat offenders in terms of going forward on a stiffer fine beyond just the cultivation. If you're talking about bud tenders who would get misdemeanor convictions, we're actually looking at it on a broader scale. We would have stiffer penalties because we're approaching it from a consumer protection approach, an environmental approach, an animal abuse approach. We're working with Fish and Game on that angle. And the difference between that and what Prop 64 did to most marijuana crimes is that you can still actually proceed on felonies. You can have people on probation. You can put people in jail. You can hold them responsible financially for the environmental mess that they create. And so In terms of just looking at it in terms of old school, the way in which somebody would come in, get a $500 fine on a site release and go back out and do it again, we've seen a little bit of that, but because our approach is a little broader and a little deeper than we normally would go on these types of cases, our hope is that there's a little bit more of a bite in terms of the environmental aspect that we have, and so using those codes and being able to proceed in a different way gives us the ability to actually hold somebody more responsible up front, as opposed to just worrying about some type of idea where the cost of doing business is unfortunately very cheap, and they come back and they go back and they do it again. That's why we're approaching it in a different way. So we don't see a whole lot of that now, but we're confident that our longer play in terms of approaching this the way we're approaching it from a creative standpoint will not create that idea where people just think this is no big deal, we're going to go in, there's not really any punishment or penalties. We're going to ensure that there are, and so we're not going to have those repeat offenders, because certainly it wouldn't be in their best interest to do so. The big part of this is being able to say that there is a concerted effort in this county to recognize the problem that there is, and we're going to get the word out individually to people who are offending, and collectively as a county, that we're not going to put up with this here. And so in order to do that, we have to get beyond the normal approach, which is somebody goes into court, pays a fine, they go back and they do it again. And the court system is just simply not able to respond to them the way that we need our good neighbors to respond to bad neighbors in the high desert that are doing this.
Thank you very much. And back to Chief Ignacio Nunez. Have you dealt with homeowners who willingly know and allow their tenants to operate a marijuana grow? And if so, what does that look like?
Most of our cases involve property owners who knowingly participate or allow someone to participate in illegal cannabis cultivation. When there is a tenant involved who is conducting this activity with the knowledge of the property owner, we hold both of them responsible. We'll issue an administrative citation to the property owner and the tenant. Ultimately, the property owner has vested interest in the property, and we end up working with them to make sure that all the violations are abated from the property.
Thank you very much. Sheriff, some people in the public may ask why so much effort, money, and resources are being placed to combat illegal marijuana growth, even though marijuana is legal in California.
Gloria, that's an excellent question, and I get this from the public from time to time. And I don't think, especially people outside our county, don't realize the vastness, number one, of our deserts, and they're lit up at night like a Christmas tree in terms of generators and all of these grows. What California's done through Proposition 64 has created a risk versus reward situation, and really very low risk and very high reward. Some of the marijuana grows that we investigate, even the smallest ones, will gross about $1 million, hence the reward portion of this. Now, some might say, well, this is a victimless crime. When we're investigating these crimes, we're getting citizens that just drive by these grows that are being accosted, again, because of the protection of their investment. We're also getting environmental degradation. We're talking about pesticides that aren't even legal in the United States that we're recovering from these grows. We're talking about water theft. We're talking about a number of crimes that we've had 2 deputies shot at in their patrol cars. Now, when we've arrested those folks and we've investigated, what do they tell us? Oh, I didn't know it was the cops. Well, that's far worse if they're taking pot shots at civilians. I can't have that, and we're not going to tolerate it. This county is about victims, and we're about quality of life for all the constituents throughout our county, and we're going to do something about this.
Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. District Attorney Jason Anderson, aside from criminal investigations, are there other legal avenues your office can explore?
Fortunately, the county has expanded its abatement ordinance. There already exists an abatement ordinance within the penal code, and what I mean by that is that we have decided that if an illegal grow is discovered on land, we are going to notify the landowner. Obviously, the Sheriff's Department is going to deal with the actors who are on the land presently when they're doing the investigation. But we're going to notify the landowners that there's illegal activity going on their property. And by definition in California, that's a nuisance. And if there's a nuisance going on your property, then we have the ability to actually put that property in receivership. So we're approaching it from a civil aspect. We are fortunate that we've been given permission by the board to contract with a civil firm that knows the civil process. We as prosecutors generally operate in criminal court, and so we're not as familiar with the civil process rules. And so joining with a firm that does nothing but civil they will be able to assist in stepping through that process that we're not used to. And the reason we're going to do that is that we realize that in terms of taking the thing that has the most value, which is a large parcel of land, and being able to put it in receivership, will certainly shut down on that particular land the nuisance that's going on, the criminal conduct that's going on. And we think it's pretty simple. If you tell a landowner that something illegal is going on in their land and they don't desire that, then they're going to assist us in making sure that that illegal activity is gone. If we put them on notice and they don't do anything, then what we're going to suspect is that they're colluding in that. And so that gives us the ability to go forward with a knowledge component that they now know what's going on the land and they're assisting with it, and that'll make it even easier for us to take that parcel of land. So that's the way we're approaching it. It's never been done before, but we've been given the resources that we need, and so we're looking forward to that opportunity come first of the year.
That was our last question. At this time, I'd like to ask if anyone has any final thoughts to add that we did not cover here today.
So Gloria, yeah, just some final thoughts from me. In terms of Operation Hammer Strike, I don't want the public to think that this is going to be just something that we're going to pay attention to and then we're going to go away. I'm going to be working with the CEO of the county to look at how we structure our marijuana enforcement teams so that if this needs to be a sustained effort, we can do that. I'm working with a number of legislators right now, Thurston Smitty-Smith and Senator Rosalía Ochoa Bao. They're bringing a bipartisan effort of San Bernardino County legislators together to see if there's something that can be done in reference to some of the changes made to Prop 64. But I'm comfortable in knowing that even if they're not successful at the state level in doing these things, that here in the county and working with our Board of Supervisors, we will actually be able to come up with an ordinance and make this an inhabitable place for these growers. This is not something they're going to want to do in our county.
I wanted to thank our partners here at the table. We understand that this is a large problem affecting many communities, and we understand that this problem isn't going to be solved by just one agency. It's going to require a larger team and collaboration amongst many county departments who have a vested interest in resolving these issues. I also wanted to thank Supervisor Don Rowe and the Board of Supervisors for the funding they've provided and the tools that they've provided to our department to help battle this important issue in San Bernardino County.
The idea that marijuana is legal in this state certainly has been popular in the last decade, and in many instances it stands true. But I would use the analogy in terms of looking at it the way our office is approaching it, is that massage parlors are illegal in California, but they're illegal, and you wouldn't want one if it showed up in a vacant house next to you in your residential neighborhood. You would probably call your local city and your administrator to find out why in the world are all these cars parked out in front and all these people are going inside and getting massages. And you certainly would be concerned if there was more than massages going on in that house, which might likely be the case. So when you look at what our residents in rural areas enjoy about an idyllic lifestyle in the high desert, is that same component, is that they understand that in certain places, under certain circumstances, marijuana is legal, but not large-scale illegal grows that are funding illegal co-ops or going out onto the black market and leading to all the indications of illegal water use, environmental crimes, animal cruelty, and weapons charges. And so in terms of approaching it the way we are, we realize there's a larger picture that has to be dealt with. If we don't deal with it now, then it's only going to get worse. And so if people analyze it to what they might see in their local residential urban community that they wouldn't desire, it's the same type of illegal activity that exists in the high desert in more of our rural areas with people who choose to live that lifestyle. So they are the victims of these types of large illegal grows. And that's just a big concern for us and why we want to approach it on a larger and a broader scale than we normally would do.
On a final thought, I would like to thank everybody at this table, but primarily our rural residents who came out and let our county know that even though we're the largest county in the U.S. geographically, that we were responsive to their needs and their concerns. Everyone at this table has been out to the community meetings and done a tremendous effort of really listening to what the concerns were and being responsive. So I am very incredibly proud of the county team and the effort, and we will continue to keep it up, as the sheriff mentioned.
Thank you all so much. This concludes our discussion. I want to thank each of our guests for participating, and we look forward to future discussions on issues that affect San Bernardino County.